Okay, so right now we are going to go through my top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived. And I'm not talking about the characters they played so much. Okay, we can include that too. But I'm talking about the actor themselves. Okay, unlike most Hollywood actors these days who play an alpha character on the big screen, but once they come off that big screen playing this alpha tough guy, they come off and then they do these PSAs. Ooh, women, empower women. Eat my pussy hat on. Oh, I'm gonna wear a dress and wear heels because this is how hard it is to be a woman these days. They're so oppressed. No, I'm talking about some badass masculine dudes who weren't afraid to be masculine, who were like, that's right, I said it, so what you gonna do, right? They weren't trying to cater to the PC mob. They didn't care. They were big name stars. Nobody could take them down. Hollywood was gonna keep hiring them because they kept bringing in money, so they didn't care what they did. They were in their prime at a time where in Hollywood, you could say this stuff. You could do this stuff, right? And they actually encouraged this stuff, right? Yeah, there were a few producers out there trying to instill feminism and anti-masculine values and anti-nuclear family values into movies, but for the most part the environment was very, very alpha and very masculine, right? That's why you had movies like Commando and Rocky and Rambo and stuff like that. Movies you probably won't see so much today, right? So even the Expendables, who makes that? Stallone, right? So let's go through my top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived and to have ever worked in Hollywood. And that would probably not get a job there today if they were just starting out, right? First on this list, and he deserves to be on this list, is, of course, none other than Clint Eastwood. You cannot tell me that Clint Eastwood is not alpha both on screen and off screen, right? This guy is just the embodiment of alpha. Even though he's older, dude is still alpha. Look at when he was younger, super alpha. Look at when he first started in Hollywood. He was already alpha. He was doing those spaghetti westerns, right? You guys remember those spaghetti westerns, the good, the bad, and the ugly? A Fistful of Dollars, one of my favorite. He did a bunch of westerns, but those are some of my favorites right there. And some of his later films even were pretty alpha. What was that last one? Gran Torino. He was basically a grandfather in that movie. Still very alpha, right? Still very just icy and just the type of guy you don't want to mess with, right? Even when he was like middle-aged in his like 50s, he was still playing these very alpha characters. He played Philo Beto in Every Which Way But Loose. So Clint Eastwood is definitely one of those characters who is alpha on screen as well as off screen. You see this guy off screen, he doesn't cater to the PC mob. He's not out there preaching SJW values, putting on the hat, the pink hat or anything like that. No, it's like, these are my beliefs, and you know what? If you don't like it, right? So Clint Eastwood is number 1 on this list. Number 2 on this list is Sir Sean Connery, right? He was knighted. So he deserves that title. But Sean Connery is definitely one of those characters. He was alpha on screen, and you know what? Off screen, you better believe this dude was alpha. If you have not seen that Barbara Walters interview with Sean Connery, where he was talking about slapping a woman, right? And she tried to shame him for it. She was like, Sean, we did an interview a few years ago, and I hope you've changed your tone about slapping a woman. Do you still think that is okay in this day and age? And he was like, you know what, Barbara, I haven't changed my opinion. And yeah, I do believe it's right. Because sometimes a woman just can't shut up, and she just doesn't know when to stop, and she just keeps pushing and pushing, and it gets to the point where it's just... And, you don't want to do it, but sometimes you have to do it, and it's very, very Irish accent that I'm butchering. It's a hilarious interview. I'm not saying he's alpha because he was like slapping women back then, but I'm just saying he is alpha for the fact that he did not abandon his values. Like, oh man, you're right. He's just like, hey, this is how I was raised. This is who I am. He's like, I'm not looking to do that, but I'm who I am. I'm who I am. Right, so Sean Connery is number 2 on this list of most alpha actors to have ever lived. He played a lot of alpha characters on screen. He was, he played James Bond in several films. He played John Mason in one of my favorite movies, The Rock, as well as many other films, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He was in Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, and just a very, very tough Irishman. He would be the embodiment of like what a tough Irishman would be if he came to Hollywood and started acting. That would be him. Like, what? I'm supposed to go to what? Women's March? No, I don't. I'm not going there. All right, so Sean Connery's number 2. Number 3 on this list is Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen is definitely one of the most alpha actors to have ever graced Hollywood. He was alpha on screen as well as off, just like many of these actors on this list are. He is just somebody who just like fought to the very end until he finally lost his life in 1980 due to an illness that he just kept fighting and fighting. But in all of his movies, he was always playing this alpha dude. He played the original Thomas Crown in Thomas Crown Affair 1968, very enjoyable movie before Pierce Brosnan did the remake. He was also Bullet in the all too famous movie Bullet. He was Detective Bullet. He was very alpha. This was a guy who loved racing cars, racing motorcycles. He was kind of like an adrenaline junkie that way. So he was not just this guy who was trying to portray alpha in a movie, but he was actually alpha in real life, right? I mean, I even heard like Daniel Craig in Casino Royale, like they gave him the Aston Martin. You remember the car? It was a stick shift. He didn't know how to drive stick. And it's like, dude, how do you not know how to drive stick? Most of the cars in the UK are stick. How do you not know how to drive stick, dude? So, especially being an action star, you got to know how to drive stick. First thing I'm going to do to teach my son how to drive is drive a stick shift. All right. So, Steve McQueen is number 3 on my top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived. Number 4 on this list was Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart, you guys who aren't familiar with him, he was a very, very alpha, very, very famous actor back in the 40s. And this was a guy who just embodied alpha on screen and off screen. If you watch any of his old movies, Casablanca, Key Largo, a lot of these movies are black and white, by the way. That's how old these are. But this guy was super alpha. You could see like vintage alpha. If you want to see vintage alpha, go watch a Humphrey Bogart movie. Go watch a Humphrey Bogart interview. It's almost like it's the same guy, right? The same guy they interview. It's like, shit, it's the same guy in the movie. And a lot of times I love that. I love that. It's like he's just playing himself. Why? Because that's who he is. He's alpha. So Humphrey Bogart is number 4 on this list. Humphrey Bogart married Lauren Bacall, and they had like this big romance back then. And there's a very sweet song about them too that was made in the 80s. I think it was by this guy like Bernie Higgins, but it was called Key Largo. And I forget the lyrics, but it was like, here's looking at you, kid. That was his tagline, right, in his movie. Here's looking at you, kid. Here's looking at you, kid. That's something Humphrey Bogart would say in his movies. Here's looking at you, kid. Missing all the things we did. We can find it once again. I know. Just like we did in Key Largo. So there's actually a song about him and Lauren Bacall. And the reason why there was a song about him and Lauren Bacall was because there was a big romance between them. She ended up marrying him. And the funny thing was, like, the way Lauren Bacall found out about Humphrey Bogart was she used to be a child and she used to watch his movies in the movie theater. She was like 14 years old and used to sneak off with her girlfriends and go down to the movie theaters to watch Humphrey Bogart because they all like had a crush on Humphrey Bogart. And then she got older, she became an actress, and then she ended up marrying Humphrey Bogart. Cool story, cool story. She married him and she was with him up until his death in 1957. I believe he just died from like throat cancer because basically this guy was smoking cigarettes left and right. He was always had a cigarette on him. He's constantly smoking. So in 1957 he finally passed away, and he was married to Lauren Bacall for the longest amount of time, which was 12 years, up until he died. So Humphrey Bogart is number 4 on this list. Number 5 on this list, can't deny, obviously, is John Wayne, right? John Wayne. This was a guy who was alpha not only in the movie, on the big screen, but he was alpha in real life. He was alpha when you met him, okay? He was just the embodiment of what an alpha male should be. I just wish there were more John Waynes in Hollywood today, but unfortunately they're not. I can't think of really any that are in Hollywood presently or coming into Hollywood. But John Wayne was definitely alpha. I believe like one of his films that I can recall watching was True Grit. Great movie. If you like John Wayne movies, he's number 5 on this list of top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived. Number 6 on this list is James Dean. Just one of my favorite actors from back in the day. He was in movie Rebel Without a Cause. He was in a movie called Giant after Rebel Without a Cause, and then finally East of Eden. That was his last movie before he finally he got killed. He got killed in his drag racing his Porsche Spider. He was like driving very fast on his way to a drag race. But yeah, unfortunately he lost his life right before Rebel Without a Cause came out, and right before he really gained like just, you know, insane amounts of fame. So James Dean makes this list as one of the most alpha actors to have ever lived, because he was alpha not only on the big screen but off screen too. This dude just loved to race cars, also loved to race like motorcycles and stuff like that. He was just one of those dudes. He was like a guy's guy. So James Dean is on this list too. He was basically almost like a caricature of what 50s kids emulated to be like. So if you ever ask somebody who was a teenager during the 50s and you talk about James Dean, they're like, oh man, James Dean, he was like so big back then. And also in that movie Rebel Without a Cause, there was a chicken race off this cliff between him and this other guy Buzz, and they're basically going towards this cliff, and they're doing a chicken run where, you know, whoever jumps out first is the chicken. But it's a great movie to watch, and James Dean makes this list as one of the top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived. Number 7 on this list is none other than Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris. I just remember Joe Piscopo saying his name like that in the movie Sidekicks. 1994, I believe. But yeah, it was a funny movie. But Chuck Norris definitely makes this list. There's just tons and tons of memes using Chuck Norris, obviously, these days. But Chuck Norris was a character who was not only super alpha in his movies, but just an alpha guy in real life. The guy is just really not only icy, non-reactive, but he's very personable. He's very approachable. He's really good with fans too. He's not like a lot of these Hollywood types who just, you know, think they're just too good for you to take a photo or take time to just say hi. But yeah, Chuck Norris has never been like that. He's just a really good guy, great actor, you know, and he's done some really very entertaining films, and obviously his films, super alpha, right? He was in Delta Force. You guys remember Delta Force, where like these terrorists took over the plane, at least the first Delta Force. Loved his character in those films. Also, he did the Missing in Action films, where he was like a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He's always been this alpha type of guy, on screen and off screen. And off screen, he's never ever catered to the PC mob. That's a guy that you're never gonna see like support any of these like crazy SJW values. He's never gonna jump in these movies where I'm playing this gay guy, I'm playing this transsexual guy. You know, no, he doesn't do the movies like that. He's like, that's not who I am. He stays true to himself. So Chuck Norris, number 7 on top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived. Number 8 on this list, I don't know why I'm going to include this guy, but I am, Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe, I feel, deserves to be on this list. Just a tough Aussie. He's a tough Aussie. He's Australian, so you call him Aussie. He's a tough Aussie. This is a guy who not only fights in his movies, but he fights in real life too. He gets into fights. You know, like, apparently, I mean, there were so many rumors back in the day where, like, he'd be at a bar or something, somebody would say something to him he didn't like, or try to talk smack to him, and the guy would just start swinging. He would just start cracking punches. You don't see a whole lot of these Hollywood guys do that, right? A lot of these Hollywood guys, again, they play tough guy on the big screen, but once that's over and they yell cut, it's like, gotta put on my dress and heels and gotta go to do this PSA for, you know, women aren't getting paid equal as men, or I gotta do something for the Women's Rights March, or I gotta wear pink more, or we gotta celebrate Women's Day. He doesn't do that. He's just like, dude, just give me the script, I will do the role, you pay me, and I go home. I go back to Australia. I don't want to stay here, right? It's like, you just pay me, I'll do the role, I'll do a brilliant role, I'll show up on time, I'll do what you ask me to do. When you yell cut, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else for you. I don't owe you anything, right? So Russell Crowe is one of those guys. He's just kind of like a tough Australian guy that, yeah, you wouldn't want to mess with. I feel like there's like a tiger, like a lion inside of him just waiting to unleash if you mess with him. He keeps it suppressed, right? He keeps it in check, unless he has to unleash it, right? If you push him too far, if you provoke him too much. But other than that, he stays pretty non-reactive, pretty icy. He looks you dead in the eyes when he's talking to you. He doesn't flinch. He's not, afraid to speak his values or anything like that. And I don't really like Western movies, but one of my favorite Western movies is one that he did called 3:10 to Yuma. If you haven't watched 3:10 to Yuma, watch 3:10 to Yuma. His character is super icy in that movie. His name was Ben Wade. And I should have included him on this list of top 33 most alpha characters to ever appear in a movie. There's a video I did recently. His character, Ben Wade, should have been on that list. Totally forgot. But Ben Wade was very alpha in that movie, and played by none other than Russell Crowe, who was also alpha in real life. So Russell Crowe is number 8 on this list. Number 9 on this list, no surprise, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. I'm talking about the original Terminator, not these feminized ones that have been butchered lately, but the original Terminator, 1984. Also, Pumping Iron, he was in that movie before the Terminator, as well as, a slew of action films. Red Heat, True Lies, The Last Action Hero. I mean, even his movies that weren't that great were still pretty alpha, right? Because, why? Because he's alpha in real life. He was the governor of California for a while. We used to call him the Governator back in the day. And he tried to fix California. He was the last Republican governor we had, actually. Arnold Schwarzenegger was definitely alpha, both in the movies and outside of the movies. This guy actually lifted weights in real life. He actually exercised. He actually worked out. I remember there was around the time Obama was running for president, and he was taking shots at Obama, and he was like, because I think Obama said something to him about his accent, and then he's like, "Look at you, Obama. Look at your legs, Barack. You need to do some squats. They're so skinny. They're such skinny legs, like pencils. You need to do more squats. You need to bend down all the way. No half, all the way." It was hilarious. Arnold Schwarzenegger, definitely somebody that is intimidating on the screen and off screen. Obviously, he's gotten a little bit older these days, but especially back in his prime, man, this dude was a big dude. This dude was just, big, muscular, and pretty scary looking. So he makes my list as number 9. Top 10 most alpha actors ever lived. Number 10, final on this list, and this is in no particular order, but of course I have to include one of my favorite actors, Sylvester Stallone, on this list. Why? Because he was Rocky Balboa, because he was John Rambo, because he was responsible for a lot of these hardcore, masculine type action films that started to evolve in the 80s and have really just kind of like helped carry on the aura of masculinity and the idea of masculinity to this present day, just because we haven't had a whole lot of those Stallone type films like the Cobra, Rocky, Rambo, those action films that he did, Cliffhanger, Driven, Demolition Man, Lock Up. You haven't really seen a whole lot of these type action films made since. It's unfortunate because you see a lot of guys, like this generation of men, I should say, who love movies, who love to watch movies. They're really kind of like, as a young person would, they just gravitate towards the new stuff, right? Oh, the new stuff must be the good stuff. It's like, no, that's not true, right? That's not true anymore. It used to be true, maybe like 30 years ago. It's not true anymore, right? The new stuff is not the good stuff. The new stuff actually sucks. The good stuff is actually the old stuff, right? So let me educate you, right? The new stuff is filmed with SJW values, feminism, right? Anti-masculinity. So you really have to go back to a time if you really want to see what pure masculine movies look like without Mary Sue characters, without insane amounts of multiculturalism. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not against that, but it's like when it's forced into a movie for the purpose of, desensitizing you or brainwashing you or manipulating you or, just throwing propaganda in your face, it just kind of ruins the fantasy. It kind of ruins the story. I just want to see an action film. I don't want to be lectured to during this film. Stallone, at the time, you know, even to this day, he still makes movies that really are just pretty masculine, right? And no apologies. And really no Mary Sue characters. Back then in the 80s, that was really his prime, when he did his best work, you know, because everybody has a prime. This is when, you know, he did his best work. So Stallone is number 10 on my most alpha actors to have ever lived, just because not only was he this guy in the movie, right? This character, this very like masculine character in the movie, but in real life, he was also very masculine. This guy did lift weights. He did exercise. He was into cars. He was a car guy. He, you know, he loved beautiful women and stuff like that. Obviously married a woman much younger than him. Very strong, good dad too. If you ever watch like Stallone's like IGs or any of his social media posts and his daughters are in there, you can tell his daughters love him. His wife loves him. He really, really takes the lead in his relationships. He's not there like, oh, we're equals, we're equals. No, he's like, dude, I'm the man. I'm in the lead in this. I'm the breadwinner. You know what? Everybody better listen to what I say. If you don't, we're going to have a problem, right? So this guy is like alpha in real life as well, which you don't see, again, with a lot of actors today who play alpha on the big screen, but off screen, they're completely beta. Off screen, they might as well just wear skirts. And many times they do when they're doing these PSAs. I couldn't believe it. I mean, even Daniel Craig, that's why he's not on this list, right? After he did Casino Royale, everyone's like, oh, the epitome of alpha, the epitome of alpha. And it's like, yeah, his character was alpha, right? His character was, which I included on that top 33 list. I was like, his character was alpha, but he himself, in real life, no, he goes against those values. He literally, like, wants to empower women more and thinks men have too much power. So it's like, dude, yeah. Maybe it's time for a new Bond. But anyway, that's why I don't include like guys like Daniel Craig on this list, because it's like, yeah, you could play alpha on the big screen. You look the part, but you don't act the part in real life. And that's a big problem I have with the definition of alpha these days. It's like too many guys have this very old idealistic perception of what alpha is. I mean, I get guys dropping hate in a lot of my videos. I don't look alpha to me. No, this is what alpha looks like. 6'5", jacked, and it's like, you know how many actors look like that play that convincingly on the screen, but in real life they're complete, you know, they're complete wusses, they're complete simps. Yeah, big difference. Same guys, by the way, will drop comments like, oh, this actor's super alpha, and they'll like name, I forgot, who was this other, somebody just dropped a comment like that, and they named some actor. It might have been Chris Hemsworth, or I don't know who it was. It might not have been, but somebody like that. And then I was like, dude, do a basic Google search, right? Somebody said, oh, what about The Rock? The Rock is alpha. I was like, no, dude. The funny thing about The Rock was like, there was always something off about that dude. There was always something that gave me a bad feeling about that dude. And then sure enough, you know, you Google The Rock, there's tons of posts where he's like, oh, I'm for feminism. I'd be the first male feminist. I'm all for it. You know, I want to make sure that women have more rights. And yeah, they've been oppressed all their lives. And oh, I have sisters. Oh, you bet your ass that I'm for feminism. I'm like, dude, does that sound alpha to you? Don't sound alpha to me. I don't want to take advice from The Rock, right? And obviously, you know, he voted that way too. He just did a whole vote. I'm supporting these leftist values because I believe in women's empowerment. It's like, all right, well, you're not going to be on this list, dude. You're not going to be on my top 10 list like he cares, right? But anyway, that wraps up my top 10 most alpha actors to have ever lived. Okay, if you have some other actors I did not include in this list or that you disagree with, go ahead and drop those comments below. Let me know some other actors you might think are alpha that you want to share with the tribe here. Drop the comment below and let me know. Let me know who you think is alpha in Hollywood, both on screen as well as off screen, okay? And that's the caveat. They can't just be like playing this alpha dude in the movie, but you know what? They have to be alpha in their real life. They can't be out there at, you know, the pussy marches and, you know, wearing skirts and heels and stuff like that, okay? They have to be like that actual guy in real life. And with that said, I'm going to wrap up here. Until next time, this is Matt Cross from AlphaMaleSecrets signing out here from my garage again with the DeLorean. As always, don't forget to smash that like button below and also hit that notification bell right next to it so you're notified whenever I release a brand new coaching video here on the YouTube. More importantly, guys, remember to subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm since they don't want to promote my coaching videos, right? I need your help to do that. And the way you can do that is by subscribing to my channel. Okay, it helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm, more than you know. So please make sure you're subscribed as well. And for you guys who want to support my work and all of this red pill, gold pill, and platinum pill content that I am teaching you here even further, the best way to do that is by becoming a premium subscriber of my premium Alpha Male Secrets channel, which I'm hosting on a private platform away from YouTube. And the reason I'm doing that is to protect my content from YouTube in the event that they try to shut me down one day, which they might. But even in the event that they do, all of my premium Alpha Male coaching lessons will be protected, and they will still be up, available for viewing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because we're on this private platform that I am paying to be on, right? And right now it's only $1 for the entire first month of premium Alpha Male Secrets coaching lessons from me that you will not find on this channel. So take advantage of it. Okay, it's only $1, and all you need to do is click that link below in my description box. It will take you over to my website where you can get signed up right now. It just takes 2 seconds, so do that now, and I will see you in my next coaching video.